Rockets and drones continue to rain down, bringing terror and death.
Israel thought it could shatter Hezbollah's defenses with one powerful strike, exposing its rivals' weaknesses. But instead of breaking through, the attack backfired, revealing vulnerabilities on Israel's side and leaving its military strategies in question. Now, with Hezbollah more resilient than ever and Iran watching closely, Marandi warns that Israel might have set itself up for a dangerous spiral. Could this failed attempt mark the beginning of an escalation far beyond anyone's control?
Israel's Iron Dome air defense system, long hailed as a nearly impenetrable shield, is under unprecedented strain.
Israel's plan to test Hezbollah's defenses was supposed to showcase its strength and intimidate its adversaries, but things didn't go as planned. The operation, intended to break through Hezbollah's defensive line, revealed critical weaknesses on Israel's side instead. Israel, armed with advanced intelligence and substantial firepower, believed it could expose Hezbollah's positions and secure a strategic advantage. But rather than accomplishing its goals, the attempt ended up drawing unexpected fire from Hezbollah, making Israel's vulnerabilities painfully clear. Instead of breaking down Hezbollah's stronghold, the effort only highlighted how deeply entrenched and well-prepared Hezbollah is. This operation, which Professor Marandi describes as a high-stakes military failure, wasn't just a routine display of power. Israel poured in substantial resources, deploying advanced weaponry and leveraging key intelligence assets, expecting to catch Hezbollah off guard.
Hezbollah has breached this defense with a steady barrage of rockets and drones, many of which evade interception and strike their targets, sending Israeli civilians scrambling for cover.
But the strategy proved flawed from the start. Every move was countered with a steady, resolute response from Hezbollah. The initial attack didn't weaken their defenses, but rather activated them, bringing Israel's assault to a halt. The intelligence they relied on, which was supposed to provide them a winning edge, fell short of accurately assessing Hezbollah's capabilities. What was intended as a show of strength quickly turned into a tactical misfire. Iran's approach in this unfolding conflict is anything but impulsive. Instead of charging in with its most advanced missiles and state-of-the-art drones, Iran opted for older, less sophisticated technology. It may seem odd for a country with substantial military advancements to send in equipment that's dated by today's standards, but there's a clever strategy behind it. By deploying outdated missiles and drones, Iran wasn't aiming for outright destruction, it was gathering valuable intelligence. This tactic allowed Iran to observe and understand how Israel and its allies would respond, noting the strengths and weaknesses of their defenses without revealing too much of its hand. It's like watching a chess game unfold where one side deliberately sacrifices lower value pieces to understand the other's strategy. This restraint serves a critical purpose. Iran is fully aware of its capabilities and knows that exposing its top-tier technology would allow Israel and the United States to prepare countermeasures. By holding back, Iran keeps Israel guessing, unsure of what kind of firepower might hit them if things escalate further. This calculated decision shows Iran's willingness to play the long game, reserving its best for a time when the stakes might be even higher. In a way, Iran is allowing Israel to display its capabilities first, almost inviting Israel to overextend itself while Iran remains poised and ready to unleash its true strength when it's most effective. Turkey is in a tricky spot right now, caught between its long-standing NATO ties and its increasing interest in new alliances like BRICS. Being a NATO member, Turkey is expected to align with Western interests, but the shifting global power dynamics are making things complicated. BRICS, an alliance made up of major players like China, Russia, and India, represents a growing Eastern influence that's hard for Turkey to ignore. The West is no longer the only dominant power bloc, and Turkey sees an opportunity to diversify its alliances. Yet, it's not as simple as just switching sides. NATO membership comes with obligations, and Turkey's involvement in BRICS is limited by its deep-rooted ties to the Western bloc, where its political and economic ties are still very strong. Marandi points out that NATO and the EU, once seen as unshakable pillars of stability, are losing influence, especially in the Middle East. Turkey's European Union membership dreams have been on a rocky road for years, with constant roadblocks and shifting requirements from the EU. This frustration is leading Turkey to question whether the EU and NATO are as stable and promising as they once seemed. Economic and political challenges within Europe have further fueled Turkey's doubt, suggesting that NATO's power might be on the decline, particularly in regions where new alliances, like BRICS, are starting to play a bigger role. The relationship between Iran and the U.S. has long been strained, and recent events have only added fuel to the fire. For years, the U.S. has offered promises of diplomacy to Iran, often dangling incentives of peace and stability. But from Iran's perspective, these promises have been little more than stalling tactics to protect American and Israeli interests. Marandi argues that Iran has grown weary of the US's empty promises, assurances that never translate into action. Each time the U.S. suggests it's working toward peace, Iran feels it's simply a way to buy more time, allowing Israel to strengthen its position in the region without facing real consequences. What Iran sees is a pattern of stalled ceasefire talks, which appear more like strategic moves than genuine attempts at peace. When the U.S. initiates these negotiations, Marandi believes it's mostly to reduce the chances of immediate conflict that might disrupt American interests. By doing this, the U.S. can assure its allies, particularly Israel, that it's in control of the situation. For Iran, though, these peace talks have come to symbolize nothing more than a smokescreen, a way for the U.S. to allow Israel to carry on unchecked. This perception has led to growing distrust, pushing Iran to distance itself further from any diplomatic engagement with the U.S. Israel's recent attempt to weaken Hezbollah has turned into a clear example of miscalculation. Hezbollah's defense line wasn't something Israel could break through easily, but they underestimated the group's readiness and resilience. According to Professor Marandi, Israel went in with confidence, expecting to expose Hezbollah's weaknesses and gain the upper hand. But instead of finding a vulnerable enemy, they faced a steadfast, well-prepared defense that absorbed and countered Israel's every move. Israel found itself caught off guard, struggling to press forward against an opponent that was far stronger than anticipated. This underestimation has cost Israel more than they likely anticipated. The operation, which was intended to demonstrate Israeli military prowess, ended up highlighting weaknesses in their preparedness. The losses they suffered during this attempt went beyond just manpower and resources. They exposed critical gaps in their strategy and capabilities. Israel's intelligence seemed insufficient to truly gauge Hezbollah's defenses, and the failure to break through showed that their approach might not be as foolproof as they believed. Rather than achieving a quick, decisive victory, Israel left with fewer gains and more questions about its strategy. Marandi's insights paint a serious picture of what could come next if Israel keeps up the pressure. From his perspective, Iran hasn't even come close to showing its full strength. The recent encounters, with Iran holding back its top-tier weaponry and using older technology, were more about testing the waters than going all out. If Israel continues to push, Marandi believes Iran could eventually respond in a way the region hasn't seen before, unleashing advanced missiles, drones, and a range of strategies that would shift the balance of power in a heartbeat. This potential escalation isn't just about Israel and Iran. It could quickly pull in Hezbollah, other regional allies, and even distant players. The situation is teetering on the edge, and the consequences of pushing Iran further could be catastrophic. Marandi's warning isn't just speculation. He's basing it on years of observing how these regional dynamics play out. He sees the U.S. and Israel's tactics, like stalling ceasefire talks and making empty promises, as nothing more than strategic moves to keep Iran at bay while they secure their interests. But Iran is increasingly seeing through these tactics and growing less tolerant of them. If Israel or the U.S. missteps, Iran could feel there's no choice left but to retaliate severely, and this wouldn't be the kind of small-scale response we've seen in recent years. Marandi warns that it would be a full-scale, relentless reaction that could set off a devastating cycle of strikes and counterstrikes across the Middle East. So, what are your thoughts on this? Let us know in the comments below.